Hey everybody, it's Dak here from the Ed Boys, and welcome to my updated 1 to 99 Melee guide. Melee is a very powerful combat style featuring stab, slash, and crush weapons. There are many bosses that are weak to melee styles, and it's a nice combat style for grinding a lot of kills since it doesn't require ammo or runes. In this guide, we'll start by talking about the order to train your melee stats, and then some basics about melee gear. I'll then go over some quests that you can complete to get a head start on your leveling before we finally get into the leveling guide. If these guides have been helpful to you, then don't forget to click that like button real quick. It does help out with the video a lot, and I appreciate that support. Now let's get into the guide. When talking about melee, we do mean your attack, your strength, and your defense levels, though defense doesn't add anything offensively to the board. Your attack and your strength levels do directly affect your damage output. A higher attack level increases your accuracy, and a higher strength level will increase your melee max hit. So these two levels are a bit more important to train. Attack is an important stat because it unlocks weapons as well, which makes a very big difference on accuracy and max hit. So in a way, training your attack also kind of increases your max hit once you can upgrade weapons. Strength is still very important though. If you had a really high attack and a very good weapon but low strength, you still wouldn't hit very hard. An easy way to go about it, especially early on, is to switch levels every 10 levels. So start with attack, then strength, then defense. So at level 1, get level 10 attack, switch to strength to level 10, then defense to level 10, back to attack to level 20, strength level 20, defense level 20, and so on. Once you reach 45 defense, you can wear some decent gear, including the Berserker helm, and then 55 defense, you can wear the Helm of Nadasnot. So you have pretty good gear options. It's not like the worst thing to let defense lag behind a little bit at some point. And then at level 75 attack, you've unlocked really all of the good weapons that you could use for melee training. So at that point, you could focus on strength until basically 99, then go back to attack for 99, then back to defense. Obviously, it doesn't have to be all the way to 99 for all of them either. You can get some high-level bossing done with 90 in your combat stats. Generally, though, I just go like every 10 levels, switching attack, then strength and defense, and going back through them. But during this guide, when I say to train levels like 20 to 60 at a certain monster, I'm saying all three attack, strength, and defense levels 20 to 60, not your combat level from 20 to 60. There's a lot of different setups for melee, so I'm going to be making like a separate full melee gear guide like I did with range, and I'm not going to go super in-depth about gear here. There are 3 different types of melee styles: stab, slash, and crush, and these aren't going to matter too much while training melee. They're just a little bit more important when talking about good setups for a specific boss. The monsters that we'll fight in this guide tend to be equally weak to each of the combat styles except in a couple scenarios. What you're mostly looking for is just a good 4-tick weapon like a scimitar, ranging from bronze all the way up to dragon depending on your attack level. You also have the sulfur blades at 55 attack. The earthbound tekpotl and the glacial tomatlis have the same stats as sulfur blades as well, just for stab and crush respectively, so they're just as good of a weapon at level 55. Once you have a quick and strong melee weapon, then the rest of your gear you kind of want to just look for a strength bonus for the most part to increase your max hit, like an amulet of strength, the recipe for disaster gloves, rune or dragon boots, or even a fire cape. And then once you start to get to higher levels, we have things like the obsidian set, which is very good for training, the full blood moon and the dual Machwell Heedles, and then of course old reliable Darox, which isn't quite the best option over the dual Machwell Heedles, but still all pretty good gear. In the Gemstone Crabs section of the guide, I will go over a little bit more of a deep dive into some of the higher tier melee training setups, but for each section of the guide, we'll have like a screenshot of what your gear should probably look like around those levels, though it's not the end of the world to have some variance. Before we get into the leveling guide, let's talk about some quests that can jumpstart your melee levels. First, we have the big one, Waterfall Quest. This quest has no requirements, but you do have to run past a couple of monsters that can be dangerous if you're still at level 10 hit points. It's not a bad idea to first go like fight some chickens and cows until you get 15 hit points if you've never done this quest before. You don't need to be lucky or anything though to survive these things when you're at 10 health. If you bring some food with you and then like make sure to attack a skeleton when you're walking by the Moss Guardian, you'll generally be safe. Waterfall Quest gives 13,750 XP in attack and strength, which jumps you from 1 to level 30 in both of those stats, skipping right to adamant weaponry. For the other quests, the Grand Tree gives 18.4k attack XP, which would get you to 38 attack if you already did Waterfall. The Holy Grail gives 15.3k defense XP, jumping you from 1 to 31, and it also gives you 11k prayer XP, giving you 28 prayer from level 1. And then we have Dragon Slayer 1, which gives you 18.4k strength XP and defense XP. It's a little bit longer of a quest, but you can kill Elvarg with magic, so it's possible to rip that Dragon Slayer 1 before you grind out your melee stats. We'll still start right at level 1 for anybody who's not opening with the quests. At level 1, your DPS isn't great, so we're going to be fighting chickens. You can wield an iron scimitar and some basic iron armor. The Amulet of Strength is pretty cheap, and it gives a great strength bonus, or even an Amulet of Accuracy is not bad, and that is a reward from the Imp Catcher quest for any Iron Men looking for a good early upgrade. I would bring a steel scimitar with you to switch to when you get level 5 attack, and then around 10 attack and strength, consider moving on to cows. Both cows and chickens are located on the farms in Lumbridge, so it's super easy to get to early on in the game. At level 20, you can move on to sand crabs. Sand crabs are located on the beach south of Scurrius, which is in the Zaya region. There's no additional requirements to get to these crabs, and your starting setup is still very straightforward. We got some mithril armor, a myth scimitar, make sure to upgrade to an adamant scimitar when you get to level 30 attack, and then the amulet of strength and some climbing boots. Sand crabs have a max hit of 1, so you're not going to need any food here, unless like maybe right at the lowest levels, haven't done much defense training yet, then just bring like 10 lobsters with you and you're good to go. Whenever you're letting a bunch of NPCs fight your character and you're just auto-retaliating, every 10 minutes those NPCs will stop attacking you, and to reset that aggro, you just need to run away a little bit and then run back, and they will start attacking you again. At level 40, I would switch to Ammonite Crabs, which do have more health each, but still just a max hit of 1. These crabs are located on Fossil Island, so you do need to complete the Bon Voyage quest for access to them. It's not a difficult requirement, but if you don't want to do it, it's not the end of the world to stay at sand crabs for a little bit. At level 40, you should be rocking some rune armor and a rune scimitar. These things don't do a lot of damage, so the rune armor is not as crucial. The main thing is the offensive bonuses, so rune scimitar, amulet of strength, combat bracelet, and a warrior's ring imbued is what I've got going on here. As you reach level 45 defense, you can wear a berserker helm as long as you complete the Fremenic Trials quest, and that's a very solid upgrade for your helm slot. From level 55 onward, any crab-related activities should be done at the Gemstone Crab, located in the Tlotli Rainforest. You need to complete the Children of the Sun quest to access it, which is a very low-level quest. This big crab basically has an infinite health bar. It does fight back with melee, but still a max hit of 1, and once you have decent defense, like, you're rarely going to be taking 1s anyways. Many players fight it all at once, and then it moves every 10 minutes, so it's extremely AFK and very good for multitasking. Right at level 55 attack, strength, and defense, your gear setup should look something like this or be aiming towards these items. The weapon here is the Sulphur Blades, though again, the Glacial Tomatli and the Earthbound Tekpotl are both pretty much the same thing as the Sulphur Blades, just with a different style. I've got a Berserker Helm, which can be upgraded to the Helm of Nadasnot once you get 55 defense and complete the Fremenic Isles. I've got a Mixed Hide Cape. This does require 60 range, but it does have a strength bonus on it. It's not required to wear it, but it's like the first decent cape option that you have. And the rest of the gear still looks the same as before. We got rune plate, rune legs, a combat bracelet, climbing boots, and the imbued warrior's ring. Pretty cheap, but a strong setup for these levels. You can take this crab all the way to level 99 in your combat stats though, so there are going to be more setups you can get to as you level up. At 60 attack, strength, and defense, the obsidian gear set and the berserker necklace gives some very good bonuses to the obsidian longsword, making it very powerful for melee training. I have a dragon defender here as well, which does require 65 attack and strength, or whatever combo that you want to add up to 130, but generally pretty close to the same levels as obsidian. I did upgrade from the warrior's ring, which is only helpful for slash anyways, and I got the imbued berserker ring for the +8 strength bonus. When you get up to 75 attack and strength, as well as 50 defense, you can wear the Blood Moon set and the dual Maquahedals. This is basically an upgraded version of the Sulphur Blades or the other double-hitting weapons, and you should push better XP an hour than you get with the obsidian set. I've filled in with an Amulet of Torture, though the Amulet of Fury is still pretty solid and a lot cheaper. I have the Ferocious Gloves, which are best in slot and a bit more expensive. You should at least be considering getting your Barrow's Gloves at these levels, and then we have the Dragon Boots and the imbued Berserker Ring. Finally, we have the Darok set. Wearing full Daroks and using the Darok's Great Axe, you get a set effect where you have a higher max hit for the more hit points that you are missing. This means higher hit points and higher strength is going to help out your DPS, and you need to reach like level 90 plus in each before it's going to do as much damage as the full Blood Moon does here. Daroks is cheaper than Blood Moon though. To get to the Gemstone Crab, the easiest way is with the Quetzal transport system. You do need to partially complete the Twilight's Promise quest to have access to the Quetzals, but then you can take them to Tal Teklan, which is a small city just outside of the rainforest. From there, just run up north to this mine. If the crab is there, to start attacking. If it's not there, click on this tunnel and it's just going to take you to one of the other locations where the crab is. Right around these levels is a good time to start using your super attack and super strength potions to boost your DPS as well. Obviously that adds a little bit more to the cost, but it's really easy to make up for that money elsewhere, and you do want the better XP rates. You get slightly less experience per damage dealt from this crab than you do with other mobs. This means at lower levels, you're not going to get great XP from the Gemstone Crab, and that's why I suggest hitting up those weaker crabs first. In general, the Gemstone Crab is just the simplest way to default for some combat XP. Whether it's ranged, magic, or melee, put on the best setup that you have and just AFK some hours at the Gemstone Crab is great for progress, even past level 60s. Your XP rates will depend on your current levels and your current gear setup. Even if you never upgraded your gear, just the difference from like 55 attack and strength to 80 plus attack and strength makes a very big difference on on XP rates. Right as you get started, you will be able to get like 40 to 45k XP an hour. As you reach 80 plus attack and strength, you can start getting closer to 100k XP an hour with the full Blood Moon set. Max gear and like 90 plus stats, you got some insane XP rates here for only having to click like 3 times every 10 minutes. At level 60 attack, strength, and defense, it is a good time to start grinding some Scurrius, though you can survive with a little bit lower defense. It's not like these are hard requirements by any means. Scurrius is a low-level boss that is designed to introduce players to PvM mechanics. In other words, it's very good for combat XP, and it's going to help you learn bossing mechanics that you will use for harder bosses. For the starter weapon here, you still could be on your Rune Scimitar, but getting to the Sulphur Blades is a pretty big upgrade. Scurrius has a 1 in 35 chance to drop the Scurrius Spine when you kill it. You can combine this spine with a Rune Mace with either 35 smithing or by paying Historian Aldo 50k to do it for you, and then you'll receive a Bone Mace. You can also turn these Scurrius Spines into Aldo for XP lamps that give a little bit of extra combat XP, by the way. This Bone Mace requires 50 attack to wield. It has similar stats to a Dragon Mace, but it has no prayer bonus on it, and the max hit is raised by 10 whenever you attack a rat, so it's very strong against Scurrius. It also has no attack cooldown when attacking the rat minions that Scurrius spawns, which is great for XP. Once you get the Bone Mace going, your kills are going to be flying. For the other filler gear, a quick shout out to Void Melee, which isn't too bad. It's also not great to grind out before 100 combat, so not required, of course. The Amulet of Glory is a good upgrade from the Amulet of Strength at this point, because you do want some accuracy bonuses at Scurrius. An Amulet of Fury is better than the Glory, but it's a little more expensive. Any God Cape could be solid for some prayer bonus. I'm still sticking with the Mixed Hide Cape, and if you have gotten your Fire Cape at this point, that's what you want to be rocking. We've got the Proselyte Armor for some extra prayer bonus. I've got an Obsidian Shield, which isn't too bad until you get to the 65 attack and strength, or again, whatever combination. Once your attack and strength add up to 130, you can access the Warriors Guild, and that's where you can get your Dragon Defender, which is a very powerful offensive melee shield. Dragon Boots are a good upgrade, but not that much better than Rune Boots, so those are still fine. And then consider that Imbued Berserker Ring for the nice strength bonus, though it does cost a bit more than the other items shown here. Scurrius XP rates can max out pretty heavily, even at high levels, so you can take this all the way to 99 if you wanted to. That would be a lot of Scurrius kills overall. Personally, I wouldn't do 60 to 99 all at Scurrius, but you can. Getting to 75 plus in your melee stats is a good place for moving on to other bosses. It doesn't have to be done with only Scurrius, but that's a fair spot to be moving on from the rat. On the low end, you should be able to get 40 to 50k XP an hour. Keep in mind, with any boss, you're going to be slower when you're learning the fight, so if you're getting slow kills and not very good XP right out the gate, that is normal. Once you've gotten the Bone Mace and you're getting good at the fight, you should be able to push 60 to 65k XP an hour, and then even higher with high tier stats and gear. Another fantastic method to start at right about 60 attack and strength is the Sulphur Naguas in the ancient prison in Napotzli, or in other words, in the Moons of Peril. There's a couple things that are really nice about Sulphur Nagua farming. First of all, since you're doing it in the Moons of Peril, you can make the Moonlight Potions in here for restoring your prayer points and boosting your combat stats for the better XP rates. It's very convenient for saving some money on potions. They also have a flat armor of -4. This means that any successful hit deals 4 more damage, so if you were gonna hit a 20 on a Sulphur Nagua, you would actually hit a 24. If you use a weapon that hits twice per attack, like the Sulphur Blades or the Glacial Tomatlis, then you get that +4 damage on both hits, as long as they're accurate, of course, so it won't turn your 0s into 4s, but any other hit, it'll add 4 damage. The Naguas are weak to crush, so the Glacial Tomatlis are a bit better here, but any weapon that's hitting twice is going to excel. You will need to complete the Moons of Peril quest for access to the dungeon, and you do need 48 Slayer to fight them. So your best option here is the Glacial Tomatli at low levels, but then the dual Makwahiel setup at higher levels is kind of insane. If you would like a deeper dive into these setups, I do talk about them a little bit more in the Gemstone Crabs section of the guide. The dual Makwahiels and Blood Moon armor at the Sulphur Naguas might be my favorite melee training method at the moment, though. The Naguas respawn on those little like sun symbols on the floor, so just stand in between a few of those symbols. Go ahead and turn on your Protect Melee and your best offensive prayer, put on Auto Retaliate, and just let it happen. The XP rates tend to be a bit higher here than Gem Crabs, mostly because of the flat armor affecting both of your hits on the double hitting weapons, and then of course Gem Crabs get less XP per damage. Your minimum gear at level 60 should still push like 50k, probably 60k XP an hour, and then max gear at high stats you can get well over 100k XP an hour here. Also, if you bring an Ectoplasmator with you, which is a reward from Soul Wars, you'll get 20 prayer XP per Nagua kill as well, which is a nice bonus. I'm a very big fan of these Sulphur Naguas. Personally, I would spend more time here than I would at Gem Crabs, though the requirements are slightly higher. 48 Slayer is pretty easy though. On that note, training Slayer is actually a great way to train any of your combat skills, sort of a two birds, one stone situation. Now, I do say here to start training your Slayer at like level 60 in this guide. That's not a requirement. You can start Slayer at any level, but the higher that you get your combat stats, including magic and range, the faster Slayer is going to be, and early Slayer levels are kind of crappy in the first place, so getting a decent base level so that your first chunk of tasks don't take forever is a very good idea. I'd say starting as low as level 40 so that you at least have a rune scimitar as more of the bare minimum. The gist of Slayer is to go ask a Slayer master for a Slayer task, and they tell you to go kill a specific monster a certain amount of times, and then you go fight that monster for Slayer XP. This can be convenient for figuring out what to fight. This also means that you fight a variety of NPCs, which is fun, but not every NPC is weak to melee, so sometimes you want to do a task with either range or magic. Again, that's totally fine, but technically that means direct XP per hour from Slayer is not going to be as high for your melee skills. You do get the benefit of using a black mask, which increases your damage output while on task, so it's not that it's bad, but the main benefit here is being able to knock out multiple skills at once. As well as profit, I should add, Slayer is one of the most profitable skills once you get to high levels, so don't forget about your Slayer gains. For level 70 plus, we have one more alt method, the old reliable Nightmare Zone. Nightmare Zone is a mini game where you get to refight bosses from some of the quests that you've completed. You can set up this mini game to just like feed you unending waves of very easy to kill bosses, and you just AFK with auto retaliate, you're good to go. You can start Nightmare Zone with lower than 70s in your melee stats. I've just always liked starting right around 70. And you can use the same gear setups that we listed off for the Gemstone Crabs. So we have Obsidian, which is very good at level 60s. The dual Maquaheatles are phenomenal when you hit the 75s. And then 90 plus attack strength and hit points. You could use Darox for some good XP as well, though I am a fan of the dual Maquaheatles. The big benefit is that you can use your Nightmare Zone points to buy Overload and Absorption Potions. The Absorption Potions just absorb any damage that you were going to take. So if you use a Rock Cake to damage yourself down to 1 HP, and then you just drink a bunch of Absorption Potions, it's like you have 1,000 health and you're only taking 1 damage at a time. For the other potions, the Overloads, they are extremely powerful for boosting your stats, way better than like a Super Combat Potion. This boost in stats makes it possible to peak at higher XP rates in the Nightmare Zone than you could get at Gemstone Crabs. You do need to spend a little bit of GP to set up an instance for the mini game. It's not that much money. Eventually, it's like 26k spent every 2 to 3 hours. I do have a Nightmare Zone guide that is linked in the description. The gear section of that guide will be missing some of the new setups like the dual Maquaheatles, but it does explain the mechanics of the Nightmare Zone fully so that you can get your runs going. Nightmare Zone is just the original AFK combat XP for higher level gains. You can get more XP per hour here than Gemstone Crabs, but it requires a little bit more setup to get going on the Nightmare Zone. And if you AFK too hard at Nightmare Zone and you log out, it kind of sucks to have to set up the instance again. It's not the end of the world, but I still prefer Sulphur Naguas currently over either Nightmare Zone or the Gemstone Crabs. This is another viable, very AFK method of gaining a lot of melee XP though. Finally, I want to give one more method, more of a shout out than an actual training method. Bossing can be a great way to gain XP overall. Technically, Scurrius is already a bossing method on this list, but something more like Vorkath. At Vorkath, you can manage like 45k up to 75k XP an hour, obviously depending on your stats, your gear, and how good you are at the boss. And that also comes with 1 mil to 3 mil GP profit per hour. So on the way to getting your 99s, you can get rich. You could also do it with range XP at Vorkath as well. Vorkath's not the only boss that you can get melee XP from. We've got like the Giant Mole, which has way easier requirements to get started. We've got Moons of Peril, Vedian and Venenatus, the Duke, Vardorvis, and many others. I say here that 85 plus is a good starting number for your stats for bossing, but that number is pretty flexible. You can start bossing with lower stats, but the kills are going to be slower, which means less experience and money per hour, and it's also going to be harder to learn a boss that you've never fought before if you're doing less damage. And then even if you start at like a weak boss like the Giant Mole, you would still get more money from that boss and more XP if you had way higher stats overall. So like, no matter what, higher stats are always going to be better for bossing, but consider trying out some bossing when you think you're ready, and then, you know, if you think you need better stats, just head back to some Gemstone Crabs or some Sulphur Naguas. If you have any questions about melee gains, be sure to let me know in the comments section below, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. If you enjoyed the video or you just got some useful information out of it, be sure to like and subscribe for more content. Also, check out the Discord channel, which is linked in the description. Thank you for watching, and best of luck on your melee grinds.